Okay, so I did not memorize my slides, so I'm going to cheat. I've got my speaker notes on my phone. If you see me look at my phone, I'm not texting with people. Oh. Any better? More? More? How's that? Better? Okay. I just said I didn't memorize my slides, so I'm looking at my phone. I have my speaker notes. I'm not, texting with people or anything. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming out. I'm Brad Bishop. I'm happy to be here today on behalf of the OpenBMC community to share with you, the OCP community, just what's been going on in our project over the course of the last year. So here's a quick overview of what I'd like to cover, an overview, to get us in sync with for the rest of the talk. I have a couple just miscellaneous topics that I wanted to highlight. I'll talk about OpenBMC release process and release content, specifically the 2.6 and 2.7 releases. I want to touch on our community forums and how this is where people go to collaborate on OpenBMC. I've got a plug for the open source firmware meetup here at the summit. And then the last thing I've got there is a call to action for you, the OCP community. Let's see. So I don't have a bullet for this, but just in case this is your first time here, what is OpenBMC? OpenBMC is a Linux distribution for baseboard management controllers. There are a couple linked slides there. These are presentations from last year. I think they're both from the summit. So these kind of show, these slides they're resources that kind of show the background of how the OpenBMC project came to be formed under, it's actually a Linux Foundation project. And so those slides have background on how the project came to be like that. And so, you can go look there if you're curious about finding that. But today I want to focus on where we've come in the last year. So, and I've got a couple metrics to kind of to highlight that. A year ago, the project OpenBMC we require contributors to sign a contributor license agreement. There's two flavors of that. There's a corporate CLA or an individual CLA. Corporate is, your business can sign it once, and then all your developers at your company can contribute. A year ago, we had 3 corporations that had signed that. Today, we have 22. A year ago, no one had signed an individual CLA, and today we have 3 highly motivated individuals that decided they wanted to contribute patches to the project. Meta layers, a year ago we had 16. Meta layers are a build component of the project. We have a number of kind of core layers that are shared. And then the remaining layers would be platform metadata. And so we have 8, we went from 16 to 24, so we have 8 new ones, and I suspect that all 8 of those are probably just new platforms that have come to the project. Sub-projects, we've gone from 66 to 121. Sub-projects these are just applications that are a part of the implementation of OpenBMC. And these are, all just Git repositories out on GitHub under the OpenBMC namespace. So we've gone from 66 of those to 121. And then we have, we had 87 unique contributors a year ago, and now we're up to 147. So that just kind of broad strokes, shows the growth in the last year. We're working on gathering a lot more detailed metrics, and hope maybe next year we can kind of share some of those and point you to where you can find those. And then lastly, there I just have a couple of longer term goals of the project. We're looking to get to feature parity with other well-known BMC software solutions, and then trying to standardize a little bit of the management interfaces in industry. Okay, so two kind of procedural things I wanted to cover. There was OpenBMC is an inclusive community, and there was a good chunk of work done this last year by a couple individuals to formalize that, and so we now have a code of conduct. There's a link there, you can go read that. I don't really expect you'll find anything very surprising there. It's pretty standard. And then also, we now have a process for reporting security issues. As a project, we have a mailing list like every other open source project. And that's completely open. Anyone can go there and provide feedback to the project, what you like, what you don't like. But security is kind of one of those special things where, a lot of times there's sensitive things there. You don't really necessarily want to disclose those things in a public forum. So the security mailing list is the answer to that. And then there's a link there for our kind of a process for reporting these things. The list is a closed list. To get on that list, there's a security working group meeting. That meeting is open to the public. There aren't specific security issues that are discussed there, just general security topics in the project. And then if you wanted to get into that inner circle, go to the security working group meeting and form a relationship with the people that are there, and that's how you get involved with that particular security forum. Okay, releases. So within the last year, we've had some formalizing of our release process. We haven't really released in the past, even though we're on 2.6. Like we had a 1.0 release like in 2016. But ever since then, we didn't really have formal releases, and we just tagged periodically. It was really informal. There wasn't a whole lot of testing that went along with that. The last tag we had was 2.4, and this would have been sometime in 2017. Within the last year, we formed a release planning working group. One of its first decisions that we would formalize our release process, have them biannually. Similar to the Yocto project, which we're heavily based on. Our releases are staggered a month to 6 weeks after Yocto is to allow us as a project to have time to kind of react to what happens when there's a Yocto release. And we had our first one in February, and that was OpenBMC 2.6. OpenBMC 2.7 is coming in August. The planning for that is mostly wrapped up. And then 2.8 will be in February of next year. And so this would be, where if you wanted to propose content for that now, that's where that would likely end up. Okay, so in 2.6, we had, we skipped the 2.5 tag as we kind of went from the old process to the new, and so that we could have the same number as Yocto. Not sure if that was the right call or not, but so stay tuned. But so yeah, we had, in OpenBMC 2.6, we have Yocto 2.6. We've got a 4.19 Linux kernel for our core components there. For some of our, our BMC function, I just got louder. There's a long list there: KVM over IP, remote media, and band update, SNMP, IPv6, serial over LAN, KCS, PECI, IPMB, IPMI 2.0, fan control, LDAP, certificate management. So all of these things were worked on. I have a little caveat that some of them are done, some aren't. Your mileage may vary. This was our first release. There are definitely some growing pains where there are a lot of people working together for the first time that haven't worked together in the past, so bear with it. There are a number of things that kind of were a factor there. I kind of highlighted one. We had, at the beginning of the 2.6 cycle, we had 2 web frameworks. One of them supported a a custom REST API that the project had for a number of years. Another one supported both that legacy one and a Redfish API. So naturally, we wanted to, we want to move to something that's supporting Redfish. So we cut over to that new framework kind of mid-cycle, and that that had some impact. But we needed to course correct, and we're on the right path there now. And finally, there's a permalink there to the project release notes, and so you can that same link there will just be continually updated as we release with release notes that should be getting better and better as we go along. So you can look there to keep up to date. And then that last link there is just so for 2.6, our planning process was actually built around just a spreadsheet, and there's a link to that if you really want to go see kind of the raw data about how we came to a plan, that sort of thing. In 2.6, we really started ramping up on Redfish. That was a major theme there. I've got a link here to the developing page of the BMC Web sub-project. You can go look there for live kind of the status of what types of things we have implemented in Redfish. In 2.6, we've got, see the list there, fan control, schema pack updates, role, support, network, protocol schema, account service manager, systems, chassis, memory, processors. I think those last things are all part of the OCP base and server profiles. So those things are all there. I'm again going to attach your mileage may vary, but it's mostly there, and we're working to get that buttoned up if it isn't. Finally, the last thing I wanted to talk about in the 2.6 release, we have a web UI user interface that we're pretty proud of. There's been really good collaboration there, and so I thought I'd highlight it here. There are a couple new functions in there in 2.6, like an SNMP configuration page and a date and time configuration page. So OpenBMC 2.7, that is coming in August. The plan is coming together now. You might be able to get content added to it if you act quickly, like within the next week or two. Otherwise, we're probably looking at the 2.8 timeframe. For core components, we'll have Yocto 2.7 and a 5.x variant of Linux. I'm not sure which one yet, but it'll be pretty new. Can be sure of that. Let's see. Yeah, we're like, I mentioned we're kind of working to button up some of our incomplete functions from 2.6. There's a lot of work happening there. There's an effort to be Python free. Like early in the early days of the project, we did a lot of kind of rapid prototyping using Python, and we've been carrying that code forward for quite a while. Python can have its place on BMCs, but we wanted to provide a path to being Python free, if that's what you want to do. So there's an effort happening there. And then finally, we aren't using a spreadsheet anymore for release planning. We switched over to a little bit better formalized process with GitHub issues. And there's a link there where you can go, and there's a label link, right? And you can go and you can see all the issues that have been opened up for 2.7. Okay. Yeah. So another big theme to 2.7 seems to be continuing Redfish support. There's a lot of work happening there, or going to happen there, and then some of these PMCI standards. There's such as like PLDM and MCTP. Big theme there. Lots of people interested in working on that in the 2.7 timeframe. If you're unfamiliar with PMCI, I've just got a quick link here to a white paper that for me personally, I found that pretty useful to just get a quick overview of what some of these standards are and what they tackle. And then there's a talk. I don't know which room it's in, but there, somewhere It's in this room. Okay, one and two, 230. So you can get come to that, get a lot more detail on PMCI standards from the DMTF. And just in my picture here, all I'm really trying to show is that you got the PLDM protocol, MCTP transports for different management components talking to each other inside the box, right? Like a server, let's say. And then you've got Redfish for talking externally to management things like consoles or scripts or whatever. So yeah, just some of the details, what we're looking to do in 2.7 in those spaces. For Redfish, we've got LDAP, or the external account service, certificate service, firmware update, power, thermal, mutual TLS, authentication, storage drives and schemas, storage and drive schemas, virtual media. And then for MCTP, we have there's a base framework library in the works. And if you've ever looked at any OpenBMC code, that'll look a little different because we're designing it to be used in other firmware stacks besides OpenBMC. So, if you keep an eye on that, because there may be some code there that you could go and use in your, the implementation of your firmware for your devices. There's also so MCTP has kind of generic aspects and then hardware they call them hardware bindings, and those are spec'd. There's an SM bus, MCTP over SM bus spec that's being worked, and then there's a serial binding that it's not a DMTF standard. That's just a proof of concept thing to get other pieces going. So those are in the works. And then similarly with PLDM, we have a kind of a framework library under development that, like the MCTP base framework library, is being designed to be used in other firmware stacks. So I'm hoping that there'll be large, big communities behind those two efforts and we can all share the code. All right. So that was it for content for releases. I want to talk about forums real quick. We use the word community a lot around here, but what does that mean? Really, the way I look at it is just a collection of the forums in which the community works together, and which means they're really important. And so pretty much whenever I talk about OpenBMC, I like to just kind of recap these. So these are the 5 work groups that we have at the moment. There's the security work group, release planning work group, test work group, GUI design work group, and infrastructure work group. I hope I didn't forget any. And so these are all phone calls. And you can see the times there. We have a wiki. There's a link later in the presentation here to the wiki, and you can go and find, all the times and phone numbers and stuff to join those calls. And then we have a number of. So I kind of, when I was going through how I wanted to talk to these slides, I realized I put these in the wrong order. I wish I would have had this one first. Because if you ignore the first bullet, which is another phone call, and then the last bullet, the middle ones there, IRC, the mailing list, wiki, code review, Garrett code review, and GitHub issue trackers. These are kind of the most fundamental forums in my mind, because they're asynchronous, and they have the maximum potential for people to participate. The problem we have with phone calls is they're just people all over the world. People are busy, people have meetings, and so we can't, it's really hard to get engagement there. So really the way this thing kind of shakes out is these forums where everyone can come, you identify who wants to work, who wants to work on something with you. And then you can kind of, once you've done that, you can kind of break into a smaller group, like one of these work groups, and you can all find a time that works together for you. And then you maybe start having more interactive conversations on the phone or et cetera. But yeah, if I had to pick the most important one of these here, it'd probably be the mailing list. You hop on there. Good stuff. Yeah, and then I put this slide on kind of at the last second because a lot of our core components, Linux, Yocto, systemd, we're becoming more involved in these. So I guess, and those projects all have communities of their own, and we participate in those. So that's kind of another community forum. Something important to the project is that we're participating in these communities and not carrying patches to the Linux kernel or something, right? Like off to the side. We want to get those there. And one of our kernel devs gave me this chart that kind of shows the progression over time of the number of patches that OpenBMC had to the kernel, and that we've been progressively getting those upstreamed, and you can kind of tell that list is almost going to zero. And that's something we're really proud of. And just to kind of level set, expectations, if you're patching things like Yocto or the kernel or something, you can be, expect to be asked by the community to go ahead and upstream your work to those upstream projects. Okay. Yeah, quick plug here for the open source firmware meetup. That's down here in 5 and 6, all day yesterday. And all day today. So it'll be there are a lot of different, it's not just OpenBMC, there are other open firmware projects, just kind of meeting in there and hanging out and talking. Thanks to the OCP for allowing us to do that. And yeah, so just down in 5 and 6, come on down. There's a couple, it's been really informal, and I got a couple topics listed there that we can talk about. Finally, so this is a call to action to the OCP community. Here's how it'd be great if you got involved. A couple ideas here. OpenBMC 2.6 was out. It came out in February, and if you want to test that and submit bug reports, that'd be great. Thank you. 2.7 coming in August. Again, same thing. We kind of really start ramping up on a test cycle about a month before release, trying to stabilize and what we're going to release. And so, yeah, in the July timeframe, if you can come to the project and you want to test some things and start opening bugs, that would be very helpful and appreciated. And finally, 2.8 coming in February of next year. Propose content now. If you want to, if you're thinking about writing some code and contributing it to the project, now would be the time to just let everyone know that you're thinking about doing that and working with the community on that. And then just a couple of links there on, again, some of our most critical forums for working with the community. And that is everything. And I've still got 3 minutes. Does anyone have any questions? All right. Yeah.
So what is the plan for, I saw that there was schema for network protocol, but is there a plan for managing the network aspect? Because in the switches and the platforms like that, there's a dichotomy of the stack. One is the system oriented, the other is the network oriented. This is network ASIC. Is there a plan to manage the network stack?
So let me rephrase the question to make sure I understand it. I think, so are you talking about like a top rack switch or something would have a BMC in it, and is there plans to write code to manage a switch like that or something? Have a stack? That's the question? Yeah. Okay. So that, right, I mean, I think is Sai in here? Where are you, Sai? Sai's not here.
So no, I can answer that. So it's all the, as he says, he's trying to follow Redfish, right? So as Redfish has models to manage switches, then there can be a request made to upgrade OpenBMC to go manage that. So the first work starts with the DMTF and trying to manage it. Then OCP's network project group has to make it a requirement. And then we can go talk to OpenBMC about trying to do an implementation.
As I don't know of any plans right now to do it, but it's certainly a use case if somebody wanted to make OpenBMC solve that use case, it's something I would certainly support for OpenBMC.
So we can talk afterwards because there are plans to do that. I'll just give you details on it.
Okay, there's one up here, yeah.
What is so special in OpenBMC that it requires so many kernel patches?
Well, the list has gone down. There aren't actually very many kernel patches anymore. So can I rephrase it to why were there so many kernel patches initially?
What kind of kernel patches do you have and why?
I don't believe that we have very many today, and I can't speak to exactly what patches we have. I can.
Yeah, the BMC is a different use case than a typical Linux, and therefore the drivers that BMC uses are a lot of times not available in the Linux. Couple of examples I can give you: KCS or PEGI drivers. Those are very different. They are not in Linux. That's one example. There are many other functionality and use cases which are different in BMC compared to a typical desktop Linux. That's why this is
So in the interest of time, I'd like to thank our speaker. And for those who want to get to the keynote, they can go.